Welcome to 23rd lecture of course Polymer Science and Technology. Today we will discuss the viscometric plot for the polymer melt. So in case of viscometric plot, we will plot the curve between the viscosity and the shear rate. Okay. So this is the viscosity unit Pascal second and shear rate unit is per second. Okay. So it has been seen that initially the polymer melt behaves like a Newtonian fluid. Here you can see the viscosity is almost constant with respect to shear strain rate. Viscosity is not changing, and this is known as the low shear zone where the shear range is low. Then after a certain critical shear rate range, the viscosity of the polymer will start falling, and now it will behave like a non-Newtonian fluid. Okay, and this will keep on falling up to another critical range, after which it will again start behaving like a Newtonian fluid, and this region is also known as high shear region. So we can divide the entire shear rate range for polymer melt as a low shear zone, medium shear zone and high shear zone. And if you observe the plot carefully, you will notice that in low shear zone as well as in high shear zone, the viscosity curve is parallel to the x-axis. That's mean viscosity is having a constant value which is not changing with respect to the shear strain rate. In other words, we can say that in low shear zone and high shear zone, the viscosity of the polymer melt is not a function of shear strain rate, or in other words, in low shear zone and high shear zone, polymer melt behaves like a Newtonian fluid. Only in the medium shear zone, where viscosity is decreasing or viscosity is the changing with respect to the shear strain rate, is known as the non-Newtonian region. Okay. So the viscosity, initial viscosity, let's say mu naught. Mu naught is the initial viscosity when shear rate range is very low or it is almost equal to 0. So this is known as zero shear viscosity, means viscosity at zero shear. So zero shear viscosity is the maximum viscosity of the polymer material melt or in the solution form. And in second non-Newtonian region, which is the higher shear rate region, here this is defined, this viscosity, constant viscosity is defined as the mu infinity. Mu infinity means infinite shear viscosity, or we can say the viscosity of the polymer melt or solution at infinite shear strain rate. So this is the lowest value of the viscosity for the polymer melt. Okay, highest viscosity is the zero shear viscosity and lowest viscosity is the infinite shear viscosity. So now question arises why the polymer behaves like a Newtonian fluid in lower and upper Newtonian region, whereas as a non-Newtonian fluid in the medium shear zone. So the reason is hidden in the structure of the polymer. In lower shear rate region, you can see that the polymer chains are entangled with each other, and secondary bonding such as hydrogen bonding, dipole-dipole interaction or weaker in van der Waals forces are responsible for the intramolecular, not intra, but the intermolecular bonding. So because of the intermolecular bonding, these chains are entangled with each other, just like the noodles which are entangled with each other. When you will apply shear rate, what will happen, up to this critical shear rate range denoted by this dotted line on the left hand side, nothing much difference will come to entanglement of the chain, because up to this point applied shear rate is very low. But after this critical shear rate range, what will happen? Then these entangled polymer chains will start de-entanglement, and these chains will start aligning themselves in the direction of the applied shear strain rate. Correct. So when entanglement is reduced, that's mean the viscosity of the polymer will also reduce. We know that the viscosity is because the hindrance of the one layer passing over another layer of the fluid, and in case of the polymer there is a secondary bonding, just like hydrogen bonding, van der Waals force or dipole interaction, that is present between two different polymer chains or two different layers of the polymer chain. So when secondary bonding is reduced with the help of shear strain rate, then these chains will start de-entanglement, and there will be sharp decrease in the viscosity of the polymer melt or polymer solution. And this phenomena will start from this critical shear rate range, and it will end up with another extreme on the right hand side defining the higher shear zone. So when the shear rate range will increase from this point left hand side to the right hand side, at the end of this, what will happen, most of the chains will be almost oriented, just like here shown in the figure. This will be oriented, and there will be no further scope for further alignment of the chain. So viscosity will not be able to decrease with the further increase in the shear strain rate, and then it will attain a constant value of the viscosity, and it will be unaffected by the increase in the shear strain rate. So this viscosity, as I told you, is known as the infinite shear viscosity, whereas the viscosity when chains are fully entangled, it's zero, represented by the zero shear viscosity. And the intermediate zone, the medium shear zone, is the region in which de-entanglement process is continued, started from the left hand side region to the right hand side dotted region. So this is a viscometric plot, and it gives lot of information about the rheological behavior of the polymer melt or the polymer solution, and we will use this information during the processing of the polymers. Now let us see the viscosity range of different materials. For example, molten glass has highest viscosity 10 to the power 12 Pascal second, coal tar 10 to the power 8 Pascal second, polymer melt ranges from 100 to 10 to the power 6 Pascal second. Honey, you must be aware about the viscosity of the honey. So the viscosity of the honey ranges from 10 to 100, and the viscosity of water is 10 to power minus 3 Pascal second. So this information will give you some idea about how much viscous the polymer melt are. Okay. So what data we can generate or we can get? Melt viscosity is not a constant in case of non-Newtonian fluid or polymer melt. Polymer melts are shear thinning. Remember it, most of the polymer, they are shear thinning material, and at low and high shear rate polymer melts behave like a Newtonian fluid, and processing is carried out in the non-Newtonian zone. Why processing is carried out in the non-Newtonian zone? Because by changing the shear strain rate, the decrease in the viscosity is possible only in the medium shear rate zone. In higher shear rate zone or in the lower shear rate zone, we will not process the polymer because here viscosity is not a function of shear strain rate. So our processing machinery will not be able to reduce the viscosity beyond mu infinity or beyond mu naught in lower or higher shear zone. So we'll process the material only in the zone where viscosity is a function of shear strain rate. So the value of the applied shear strain rate and the shear stress caused by the shear strain rate will be obtained from the viscometric data. Some viscometer or rheometers will give you this data, and when you will divide the shear stress with the shear strain rate, you will find the apparent value of the viscosity of the polymer melt. So in case of polymer technology, I have told you polymer technology is related with the polymer processing with the help of polymer rheology, because if you want to convert the raw material polymer in the form of some finished product, then you have to melt the polymer and flow inside the mold, then it will take the shape of the desired product. So here the knowledge of rheology is important, that will govern the flow and deformation of the polymer. So polymer processing operation, let me tell you, there are many polymer processing operations such as extrusion, injection molding, compression molding. You will study about this technique in the 4th unit. So there is a range given for the different operation. For example, in a case of extrusion, the viscous shear strain rate ranges from 100 to 500 per second. In case of injection molding, the polymer melt has to flow inside the very thin wall of the mold cavity, so it requires very huge pressure and very huge shear strain rate. So the range for shear strain rate is somewhat in the region of 1000 to 5000 per second. Actually, highest shear strain rate requirement is in case of injection molding. In case of compression molding, the shear strain rate requirement is just 10 to 50. So this will give you an idea how much shear strain rate is needed for different polymer processing operation. Now, most of the polymer processing equipment for the thermoplastic polymer, they are basically in the form of extrusion. Here in extrusion, what we are doing, there is a hollow cylindrical metallic barrel with very thick wall. So this is known as the barrel, made up of tempered steel and chrome plated from the inside. Then there is a screw, a long screw, which is known as the plasticizing screw, and it has got the geometry like that the root diameter of the screw is continuously increasing, and the root diameter of this screw is minimum in case of in the location from where the raw material will be fed to this extruder. There is a hopper. From the hopper, raw material will go inside the screw barrel assembly, and here the root diameter is the minimum, or you can say the channel width. This width between the screw root diameter and the inner diameter of the barrel is known as the channel width. So maximum channel width is in case of area just under the hopper, and this is known as the feed zone. This zone is known as the feed zone. You can see feed zone is written here. So maximum channel depth is in case of feed zone, then This channel depth is decreasing because the root diameter of the screw is increasing, and you will see the minimum channel depth is in the zone of metering zone. The entire zone is divided into entire extruder is divided into three zones. One is the feed zone, another is the transition zone, and the final one is the metering zone. The purpose of feed zone is to accumulate the polymer material in the form of granules or the powder, which is the solid and at the room temperature. So here maximum space is being provided so that it can accommodate the raw material. Then by the rotation of the screw with the help of a motor attached to the screw, the polymer inside the channel will move forward, and when it will pass through the transition zone, some electrical heaters are there. They will hit the polymer. At the same time, screw will get the shear energy from the plasticization screw, rotation of the plasticization screw. So plastic raw material will undergo melting in case of transition zone and metering zone, and the energy for the melting is provided by the heater as well as by the rotation of the screw. Here let me tell you, the 80% of the melting energy is being provided by the rotation of the screw, or you can say from the motor attached to the plasticization screw, whereas only 20 to 25% energy is being provided by the electrical heater mounted on the barrel. Okay. Some of us think that all the energy is being provided by the electrical heater, which is not true. Actually, this is the frictional energy that will generate when a screw will rotate inside the barrel. So material will undergo extreme shearing and friction, and it will be heated up. So 80% of thermal energy is being provided by the rotation of the screw. Remaining 20-25% energy is from the electrical heater mounted on the barrel. Okay. So as I told you, feed zone, transition zone, metering zone, these are the three zones of the extruder, and feed zone is having the maximum channel depth, transition zone is having intermediate channel depth, and metering zone is having minimum channel depth. Why channel depth is continuously decreasing? Because in feed zone our polymer is in the form of granules pellet, so it needs lot of space. But when it will move from the feed zone towards the transition zone, as its name suggests, transition zone, it will transit from the solid state to molten state, and in under the transition zone polymer will be partially molten, partially solid state. But as soon as when it will reach to the melting zone, in the melting zone all the unmelted polymer will be converted into polymer melt, and they will be homogenized under metering zones. Here channel depth is less, so lot of energy will be produced by the friction, and all the polymers in this zone will be melted. So the solid polymer fed through the hopper will be completely in the molten stage when it will reach to the extreme end of the metering zone. Okay, I hope it's clear. And there is a screen mesh. This is just like a you can say filter. It will filter out if any impurity is mixed inside the polymer melt, such as metal chips or something which has gone to the hopper along with the polymer raw material. So a screen mesh will filter it out, and this screen mesh will just fit at this end of the extruder and followed by a die, so that the molten polymer will pass through the die and it will take the shape of the geometry of the die. Geometry of die may be a cylindrical, it may be of the shape of a tube, or it may be shape of a profile such as I section, C section, okay, L section. So the final shape of the product will depend upon the shape of the orifice of the die, from solid rod to tube to profile, I profile, C profile, L profile, or various other types of shapes are possible. So this is the basic of the polymer processing operation. In most of the processing techniques such as extrusion, injection molding, blow molding, polymer is being melted with the help of screw barrel assembly. Okay. So here we can see that the polymer in the solid form is converted to completely molten form by the plasticization action of the screw. So the rheology part, the entire rheology part plays an important role when polymer flows from this feed zone to transition zone to metering zone, then from breaker plate, screen mesh to die. So this all is governed by the rheological principle. If you are not aware about the rheological principle, then you will not be able to process your polymer in a desired and wanted manner. Okay, so this shows you polymer granule in the feed zone, then partial melting in the transition zone, complete melting as soon as it will reach to the metering zone and breaker plate mesh assembly, and finally die will give us the finished product. In case of injection molding, what will happen? RPM of the screw and channel depth, in case of injection molding, this is something else. Injection molding, as soon as it will reach to the fully molten position, then instead of a die there is a mold of some 3D complex 3D shape. Then molten polymer will be injected by the hydraulic action of the screw inside the cavity under very huge pressure, and this pressure will cause very high flow rate, and high flow rate will generate very high shear strain rate, and polymer will flow inside the very thin walls of the moldings inside the mold, and it will take the shape of the mold, and upon cooling mold will open and this finished product will come out. So up to this part, injection molding is same as extrusion, but in case of injection molding, instead of die we are having one mold. Die is basically to get continuous product. For example, pipe, we can obtain continuous length of the pipe, or I section or C section or L section. So extrusion is meant to produce continuous product, whereas injection molding is able to produce discrete product of complex three-dimensional shape. Okay, in case of blow molding also we will be having same setup up to this part, and this setup is required to melt the thermoplastic. Then instead of die, some blow mold and mandrel is attached. We will see this topic in detail in the 4th unit. So in nutshell, we should remember that up to this part, extrusion part, or you can say the screw barrel assembly. Screw barrel assembly is same for the extrusion process or blow molding process or injection molding process. Okay, and here the shear rate can be controlled by controlling the RPM of the screw and the channel depth. If I'll rotate this motor very fast, then what will happen? My shear rate will increase, because we know del u over del y. So if we increase the velocity component by increasing the rotational velocity of the screw, shear rate will increase. So we can control the shear rate by two mechanism: either increase the velocity by increasing the velocity of the RPM of the screw, or by reducing the channel depth, because shear rate is del u over del y. So del u defines the velocity and del y is defined by the channel depth. So if we reduce the channel depth, we can increase the shear strain rate. That's why we are continuously reducing this channel depth in the metering section, because we want very huge shear strain rate to be applied on the polymer melt under metering zone. However, we do not want that the very huge shear strain rate should be applied in the feed zone, because in the feed zone polymer is still in the solid form and it cannot accommodate such a huge shear strain rate. So we will wait, and it will, when it is completely in the molten stage, then we'll apply the full shear strain rate for the mixing. Now let us see the effect of processing parameter. Processing parameters means the parameter for the processing of the polymer, or the parameter that controls this extrusion process. So we will see the effect of processing parameter on the viscometric plot of the polymer. So the most important processing parameter for extrusion is the temperature. So effect of temperature. See, this is my viscometric plot between mu versus shear strain rate. This is a S kind of curve, and here this is the zero shear viscosity, this is the infinite shear viscosity, and this is the region which is the intermediate region, or the middle region, or the, we can say, non-Newtonian region, where my curve is dropping. So if I increase the temperature, then what will happen? This curve is basically a representation of the viscosity as a function of the shear strain rate. But what will happen when we change the temperature? So let's say we have conducted 3 experiments with temperature T1, T2 and T3. So the T1 is the minimum temperature, T2 is the middle one, and the T3 is the highest temperature. So we are observing that this curve viscometric plot is falling downward with the increase in the temperature. That's mean the shape of the curve will be like this, but this curve will shift downward side. That's mean there will be some reduction in the zero shear viscosity, as well as there will be some reduction in the infinite shear viscosity also. Okay, so this is the effect of the temperature on the viscometric plot. And of course we have to process the polymer just in between the range of Tm and Td. Td is the degradation temperature and Tm is the melting temperature. We should process only in between these two extreme range. Now effect of the molecular weight on the viscometric plot. Again, this is my viscometric plot, and we have conducted the experiment for 3 different molecular weight of the polymer. Let's say polymer is the polypropylene, and we are conducting this experiment at 220 degrees centigrade. So the first polymer sample is having molecular weight 20,000, second one is having Mn bar is equal to 35,000, and the fourth one is having number average molecular weight is equal to 50,000. So we can see by the increase in the molecular weight, the viscometric plot is shifting upward. That means the zero shear viscosity for the molecular weight 20,000 will be increased when molecular weight is 35,000 or 50,000. Similarly, infinite shear viscosity will also increase with the molecular weight. So overall direction of the shifting of this viscometric plot is given as upward direction. Increase in the molecular weight will shift the viscometric plot in upward direction. If the molecules chain are linear, then the curve will be parallel to each other. But if the polymer is branch or cross-linked, then the shape of the curve will not be parallel to each other, and they will depend upon their degree of entanglement. Here we can see these three curves are almost parallel to each other. So this is the case when my polymer is linear. I hope you remember the linear branch and cross-link structure we have discussed in the unit 1. If the polymers are branch like LDP, then what will happen? These curve will not be parallel, but some shape will be distorted. Okay, they will not remain parallel. Shape will be distorted in case of branch or cross-linked polymer, because in case of branching, the intramolecular forces acting between the two different polymer chains will interfere, and they will change the viscosity of the polymer melt. Okay, and this deformation in the parallel nature of this curve will depend upon the degree of entanglement. Higher the degree of entanglement, greater will be the deformation in the parallelity of this curve. Next is the effect of the plasticizer. Plasticizers are basically high boiling point liquids that are being added to the polymer during the processing, so that the viscosity of the polymer melt can be reduced, because some of the polymers are very viscous and they are not able to process by the normal extruder due to their very huge viscosity. In such a cases, plasticizers, high boiling point liquids such as paraffin wax or some other phthalates are being added to the polymer, and they act as a softener, or you can say the molecules of the plasticizers will penetrate between the different polymer chains, and they will act like as a ball bearing. So chains will slide over each other due to the molecules of the plasticizer. So when they will increase the intramolecular movement of the chains, so viscosity will be reduced. So the effect of the plasticizer on the viscometric plot, because it reduces the viscosity of the polymer melt, so the viscometric plot will also shift downwards. So the effect of the plasticizer is just like the effect of the temperature on the viscometric plot. And plasticizer not only reduces the viscosity, but also they can change the rheological behavior of the polymers. So the shape of the curve may also be different for when we are varying the amount or weight percentage of the plasticizers. Fillers are those material which is being added to the polymer melt in order to reduce the cost or to increase the mechanical properties, and with the for example, calcium carbonate can be added to the PVC resin in order to reduce the cost of the molding, and some nanoparticles are being added to the polymer when superior mechanical properties are required. So filler can reduce, low cost filler can reduce the cost, but high performance fillers such as nanoparticles or glass fibers, they can improve the mechanical properties of the polymer. So when we'll add the fillers will basically increase the viscosity of the polymer. So the effect of the filler on the viscometric plot, it's on the upward direction. When we will increase the filler contents, the viscometric plot will move in the upward direction. So we can say that the viscosity of the polymer is not just dependent upon the shear rate or the temperature, but the viscosity of the polymer is a function of temperature, shear strain rate, molecular weight, pressure, filler content, and plasticizer content. And this graph represents the different the direction of the different direction of the various factors affecting the viscometric plot. We have already seen this, that the temperature will try to bring this curve down, molecular weight will try to shift this curve upward, pressure will also try to shift this curve upward, filler will also try to shift this curve in upward direction. You can see the direction of the shifting for the molecular weight, for the pressure, and for the fillers is different. Molecular weight will try to shift in this direction, whereas increase in the filler content will try to shift this curve in upward direction towards right hand side. Temperature will will try to push this curve downward vertically, whereas plasticizer is just opposite to the pressure in this. So, and one more thing, the effect of the pressure is not very significant, so that's why sometimes we are not considering the effect of pressure, but the effect on the viscometric plot of the polymer is mainly affected by the temperature, shear strain rate, plasticizer content, filler content, and the molecular weight of the polymer. So this is the end of 23rd lecture. In the next lecture, we will see how we can measure the rheological properties such as the viscosity of a non-Newtonian fluid or non-Newtonian polymer melt with the help of a rheometer, and this rheometer is known as the capillary rheometer. So I hope you must have understood and enjoyed this lecture. Thank you very much.